Will come to order. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning, everyone. The prayer today will be offered by the delegate from Montgomery County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
Colleagues, let us pray. Yesterday and today is the first time in almost 2 weeks that the temperature will rise above freezing here in Annapolis and across much of our state. As we welcome the opportunity for our streets and our lands and our bodies to finally start to thaw out from the harshness of these last days, let us also embrace the chance to let the tensions thaw among us. Let us continue to find and build here in this chamber a community of common interest, warmed even in the wake of sometimes icy exchanges by our fellowship, the heat of our convictions, and our shared passion to serve. For we know what comes after the snow and the darkness. We have faith in what emerges in the aftermath of the cold, and we recognize that the storm is a necessary part of the process and the journey, portending the promise of spring. In the book of Exodus, manna is described as falling from the sky in fine white flakes, covering the ground as a frost. And yet it was a miracle that nourished the Israelites in the wilderness, but it was only edible after it melted in the warm sun. Heed the words of the prophet Isaiah, that as the rain and the snow come down from heaven, and do not return to it without watering the earth and making it bud and flourish, so that it yields seed for the sower and bread for the eater, so is my word that goes out from my mouth. It will not return to me empty, but will accomplish what I desire and achieve the purpose for which I sent it. So let it be for us, colleagues, that what may at first appear as a hardship or an obstacle is set before us by the all-knowing as an aspect of our journey that is essential to reaching our destination, and that the words that go out from our mouths in our discussions, in our debates, in our questions, will achieve the purpose for which we were sent here, just as the snow achieves its purpose from heaven. Even with 6 more weeks of winter, in the depths of record-breaking cold, surrounded by piles of snowcrete, as we huddle under our blankets and under the heavy weight of the great existential questions that occupy our minds, we know that spring will come. There is always reason for hope. Amen.
Quorum call.
Madam Speaker.
Give people a few seconds to reach their seat. Thank you for your patience. Okay, you have 1 second. The clerk will call the roll. There being 129 members present, the House is now in session. The clerk will read the journal from the previous day.
Annapolis, Maryland, February the 2nd, 2026.
Recognizing the Deputy Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So much be considered the reading of the journal.
So order petitions, memorials, and other papers. All right. House resolutions. I'm recognizing the delegate from Montgomery County. Will the reading clerk please read the resolution in full?
Be it hereby known to all that the House of Delegates of Maryland offers its sincerest congratulations to the Bethesda Roosters in recognition of the Bethesda Roosters U16 rugby team for winning the Maryland State Championship and the National Youth Rugby Series National Championship. The entire membership extends best wishes on this memorable occasion and directs this resolution to be presented on this third day of February 2026.
Oh. Madam Speaker? Okay. Madam Speaker.
Yes, recognizing the delegate from Montgomery County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Good morning, delegates. On behalf of the District 15 team, I want to welcome the Bethesda Roosters U16 rugby team. The Roosters completed a remarkable double victory this spring, winning both the Maryland State Championship and the National Youth Rugby 7S Championship. This marks the first national title in the club's 10-year history and a proud milestone for Montgomery County Youth Athletics. Founded in 2015 by local Montgomery County families, the Roosters Rugby Club has grown into a regional powerhouse and is poised for even greater things in the coming years. Joining us to receive the citation today are Coach David King and team captain David Michael Pfaff. Please join me in welcoming and congratulating the team. The rest of the team is up on the balcony. Thank you.
Can you stand up, please, to be recognized? Congratulations to all. Great accomplishments. Will the delegates please come up? Okay, we're going to get to our business today. I first just want to say thank you again for yesterday. Thank you for the respectful exchange and for the civility that we demonstrated yesterday. And I was very touched. It went as smooth as it could possibly go. And I'm very grateful. Thank you to all of you. We're going to start with the consent calendar of introductory House Bill number 27. The clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 737, Delegate Hill, Health.
Recognizing the majority leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
So much be considered the reading of House Bill 737 through 743.
Hearing no objection, the bills are read the first time and referred to the appropriate committees. Quorum call. The clerk will call the roll. I'm sorry.
Madam Speaker.
They were calling on the chair judiciary. Everyone has your back. That's a good thing. Has everyone recorded their presence? If so, the clerk will take the call. There being 137 members present, the House is still in session. House third reading calendar number 2. The clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 444, Public Safety, Immigration Enforcement Agreements, Prohibition.
House Bill 444 is on third reader and final passage. Is there any debate? Recognizing the delegate from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I'll be very brief this morning. I just want to say I'm really disappointed that the solution for this problem that this body has come up with is to handcuff law enforcement. I think the question we're trying to address with what we do in regard to detentions of criminals who are pending deportation. I think it's a question that deserves an answer, but I think handcuffing law enforcement is the wrong solution, and for that reason, I'll be a no today.
Recognizing
Madam Speaker.
Yes, let me recognize you first. The gentleman from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise today against this bill. I'll try to be brief as well, but I have a few remarks here I wanted to make over kind of some of the conversation we've heard here. Yesterday, I would say that it was all about the politics of power, and this here is putting politics over public safety. I find that unconscionable. And last week, there was a comment made about ICE agents and how the federal government is not sending their best. When I did a little research, I find out that 7,500 of our current ICE officers are military veterans. I would actually go to far as say they're sending our very best if you look at the fact that these are some of the people that decided to continue their public service to this country by trying to defend our country from illegal alien criminals. I was doing a little research here. You want to talk about who is not sending their best. Well, how about some of these criminal illegal aliens that are coming into our neighborhoods, our communities, wreaking havoc? I have an entire list here. I'll do a couple of examples for you, starting off with Victor Martinez Hernandez from El Salvador, raped and murdered a Maryland woman who was out for a walk on a trail. Walter Javier Martinez, a confirmed MS-13 member, again from El Salvador, raped, strangled, and murdered 20-year-old Kayla Hamilton. This means something to me because last year I worked directly with Tammy Nobles, that's Kayla's mother. Tammy was raped, strangled, and murdered at the hands of somebody who should have never been in this country to begin with. I worked directly with her on legislation. Unfortunately, it did not go anywhere. But I wonder how many people in this room that are going to support this bill ever reached out to victims like Tammy and many others and asked how they feel. How do they feel about laws that make it easier for those in this country illegally who have committed violent crimes to come to Maryland? I have an entire example here with the MS-13 leader hit with gun charges, extortion, terrorism links. Let's see, Salvador Vasquez Riviera convicted of sexual abuse of a minor in Hagerstown. Another attempted first-degree murder in Cumberland. ICE lodged detainers on 3 MS-13 members charged with butchering a 14-year-old in College Park after prior arrests. Here's one who had ties with Tren de Aragua with gang members nabbed by ICE. And I say, let's ask ourselves why, with members of Tren de Aragua, illegal aliens from MS-13, sex traffickers, murderers, they're all here in Maryland. They are turning Maryland into their hangout. Now, why would we put forth laws that make it more challenging and difficult to work with our federal partners to get them out? Why would we put at risk DHS resources to get them out of our neighborhoods? I want to make another point here. Maryland has an estimated 370,000 illegal aliens in this state. If you do the math, that is more people than in Howard County, Carroll County, Frederick County, Charles County, almost every county in the state. I believe it's 18 jurisdictions. Individually, there are more illegal aliens than the people in those counties. So that is solely because legislation like this, and throughout, I've been here going on 8 sessions, we have continued to pass bills that encourage illegal immigrants to come to Maryland. That is not saying that every single one of them is the example that I read from, but the facts are the facts, and there are a lot more. This legislation does not protect Maryland citizens. It does not protect Maryland families. It endangers them. It invites more criminal illegal aliens who, again, should have never been in this country, let alone this state in the first place. It makes it's a total violation of federal law to be an illegal alien, and yet we continue to push policies that welcome it. I'm voting no on this bill. I am not having the next Kayla Hamilton on my watch. I urge everybody else to vote no as well. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the gentleman from Montgomery County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
I I just won't be lectured on public safety by the party opposite. The reality of it is the safest place to be in America right now is in the Epstein files. You won't get investigated, you won't be indicted, and you sure as hell won't be snatched up off the streets by mass federal agents and carted away to an undisclosed location. This isn't about public safety. This is about the havoc that ICE and CPB agents have been allowed to wreak on our streets. And this is about the safety of our community. But safety doesn't mean giving ICE a $70+ billion slush fund, more than the budget of the state of Maryland, to snatch people at schools, to murder them on the streets with impunity. That's the public safety that our Republican colleagues are talking about, where US citizens are picked up, where they're shot on camera, and you have the current occupant of the White House attempting to justify what we all saw with our eyes, which was clearly a murder of a US citizen. This bill is about protecting our communities and promoting public safety. And promoting public safety does not mean giving ICE and CPB agents not just a slush fund, but the green light to do whatever it is that they want to do. We have laws, we have due process. And in the state of Maryland, we won't be complicit in what we're seeing nationally, where Trump and Republicans have essentially unleashed on our communities federal agents who shroud their identity, federal agents who are unaccountable to the communities that they show up in. And in addition to that, we have agency heads of ICE and CPB who then in turn demonize those same American citizens after we've watched on video ICE and CPP agents literally killing someone. I'm not going to be lectured by Republicans on public safety when we all know about January 6th and the fact that this president has pardoned damn near every single person that has engaged in the attack on our state, on our country's capital. This bill is about ensuring that law enforcement, state and local law enforcement, do exactly what it is that Marylanders want law enforcement to do. A majority of Marylanders want law enforcement to focus on serious violent crime and not playing immigration agents. That is the job of the federal government. And quite frankly, I think they're doing a terrible job at it. But this is about public safety in our communities. We've all seen the videos. When an agency is unchecked, and when you have an administration and Republicans who are unwilling to hold ICE and CPB accountable, you see what we're seeing on our streets. A majority of the people who are picked up, who are detained, we're continuing to find out, had no criminal record. You have people who have been in this country for decades, built a life, built a business. Undocumented immigrants who have paid for decades taxes into a pot that they don't receive any benefits from. Undocumented immigrants pay more in taxes than the current occupant of the White House. He's proud of being a tax cheat, but not our immigrant neighbors. As an immigrant, I understand the promise of this country, but I also believe that this country should be as good as it says on paper. You can't call yourself the land of the free and then we're detaining people without due process. And that detention includes a 5-year-old boy. A 5-year-old boy like Liam. What kind of a trauma are we inflicting on the next generation when they are looking at their parents and their family members being snatched, being shot, being carted away to undisclosed locations. How does that make us any better as a state and as a country? How does it make us safe? And so the examples that Republicans are drawing on are designed to inflict fear. And those aren't the people that ICE and CPP agents are going after. And so no, I won't be lectured on public safety because I understand that public safety is about trust. And Trump and Republicans have violated that trust. What we're seeing on our streets is the use of tactics that, quite frankly, we should all not just be horrified, but we should all have a sense of urgency to do something. And this is that something. It is ensuring that our law enforcement are not complicit in what we're seeing ICE and CPP agents doing all across this country, and that is terrorizing communities, murdering Americans with impunity, and snatching kids, not just from their parents, in some instances, taking those same kids. No regard for the personhood and the fact that what we are trying to do here in this country is build a political project that brings us all together. But when you have children who are US citizens watching their family members being treated the way that they do, what do you think of this country? I'm not going to be lectured on public safety by any member from the party opposite. If you're serious about public safety, you would have something to say about the Epstein files and the fact that this president has managed to show up in it more times than some of the folks in this country. This bill is about public safety because it ensures that our local law enforcement are doing what we expect them to do, which is to focus on serious violent crime in our communities and not to be deputized by federal agencies to do their work, to engage in the kind of vile practices that we're seeing on our streets. Not one mention of the people who have been killed by ICE and CPB agents. This bill is about public safety. And it is a bill that, quite frankly, long time overdue. We should have passed this a long time ago. But we're here now. And so I'll be casting a vote, a green vote, because I recognize that the way we keep our communities safe is not by allowing an agency to run rogue without accountability and to then be allowed to deputize and to get into an arrangement with local law enforcement so that they can be doing what ICE and CPB agents are doing right now. That's not public safety. So I'll be voting green. Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I encourage my colleagues to do the same.
Recognizing the minority whip.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. You know,
welcome.
I was motivated to get up by the newly appointed subcommittee chair of public safety in our General Assembly. Riddle me that. So I appreciate the previous speaker literally describing everything but the 287G program. He described enforcement in the streets. It's not the 287G program. Matter of fact, the 287G program is designed specifically to avoid those scenarios. We just heard a real-life debate, and I will say a very good debate yesterday on the facts of what happened in Prince George's County. And the fact of the matter was somebody was released. Maybe the ICE agent didn't show up in time, but that person was released, and then they had to enforce in the streets. So to the subcommittee chair's point, if you don't want enforcement in the streets, that's what the 287G program is. Everything we heard is unrelated to this bill. I get it. You watch TV. I have that too. I have MSNBC, CNN. I have all those stations too. And newsflash, I don't like everything that I see either. I don't. Nobody wants to see a U.S. citizen getting shot, right, because of immigration enforcement in the streets. This bill ain't it. The 287G program ain't it. It's not going to solve, getting rid of this bill, or I should say passing this bill, is not going to solve this speech we just heard about what's going on there and there, okay? This is a very narrow program in our state that's been here a long time. By the way, it wasn't passed. You didn't pass this bill during Biden administration when Biden was president for 4 years. You could have. You could have. This is a public safety program. That's it. It allows for a level of cooperation between local authorities and federal officials pertaining to individuals that were arrested for a crime. That's it. It's narrow. Passing this is nothing more than virtual signaling to your base. Maybe that's important to you during an election year, but I got a family to raise. I want to raise a family in a safe state where criminals are actually held accountable. In a state where if you get arrested, guess what? They ask for identification. If I get arrested driving home from Annapolis on Friday, they're going to ask for my identification also. That's typically how it works. God forbid I've committed a crime in another state, they're going to find out about it. That's how that works. What you're saying with this bill is you want no cooperation. None. I want no cooperation with the federal government whatsoever, even at the expense of our own public safety. That's the part I have an issue with, is that you're willing to pass something at the expense of our public safety for political purposes. And by the way, there was a poll taken in the state on whether we should cooperate with federal agents related to immigration enforcement, and it was in favor of doing so. And that wasn't a Republican poll. That was an independent poll that was brought up last year on this floor. The problem is you guys are meddling with the politics and public safety, and it's making us less safe. You want to have talking points about what happened in Minneapolis and all these other places, go for it. But don't mix this in there. This is unrelated. This is an unrelated program that we have in our state that's been in place for a long time. So I'm going to be voting against this because I will be putting public safety above politics. That's the least we can do. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. There was a lot that was just said, really trying to stoke fear and division amongst us. This bill isn't about Prince George's County. It's not about Hartford County. It's not about Frederick County. It's about the state of Maryland. It is about every single person who lives in this state and ensuring that every single person who lives here in this state feels welcome to live here, feels protected by law enforcement within their community. That's what this bill is about. We've heard about DHS resources, which they're very well resourced. I don't think they need anything else additional from us. I think the federal government is doing just fine, giving them all the money that they need to do whatever it is that they want to do. But part of the reason we're having this conversation is because our immigration laws in this country are broken. And there's only but so much that we can do here in the state of Maryland. That is up to the federal government. That is not up to us. And every president, whether they have been a Democrat or a Republican, from Nixon to Bush to the other Bush to Biden, have tried to fix our broken immigration system. And it has not been done because of partisanship across the board. And so, until that is fixed, we are where we are today. And so, these agreements, we have heard in testimony, strike fear amongst individuals within our communities across the state of Maryland, whether you live in Hartford County, Frederick County, and Prince George's County. And please stop using my county as a racist trope. I would appreciate that.
Point of order. That's highly disrespectful.
I did say, come on and stop it, okay? So I appreciate that, but I saw it and I corrected it.
Madam Speaker,
Thank you.
If I may, also a point of order. She led off the speech by impugning the motives of our minority whip by saying that his speech was trying to strike fear.
I didn't say his speech.
Well, with
Can
the
we,
comments that he made.
excuse
was
me,
right.
1 second. I got this. All right, thank you. Continue.
Sorry, Madam Speaker. Let me stick to the bill. So this bill is about public safety. This bill is about ensuring that everyone here in our state feels comfortable engaging with law enforcement. This bill is not about eroding our public safety system here in this state. We have a system that works. And the debate that the Minority Whip talked about, I think the debate yesterday talked about how our system here in this state is working just fine without these agreements. I am urging my colleagues to vote green on this bill because it is the right thing to do for all Marylanders. And it will continue. We will all continue to feel safe. We will all continue to feel comfortable engaging in law enforcement. The Minority Whip talked about being pulled over by the police. And I pray that with the passage of this bill, that when everyone is pulled over by the police, they do not fear being ripped apart from their family. They do not fear being ripped apart from their kids, and that they feel comfortable knowing that after that encounter, that they will be able to go safely back home. Thank you.
Before I called on anyone, when we get up, let's focus on the point we're making. If you get up and you make a list or start naming people, you're going to open yourself up for the other person to do the same. Okay? If you mention someone's county, you're going to open yourself to do the same, the other person. So let's try to be thoughtful about what we say, okay? I know this is very emotional and very personal. I am calling now on the gentleman from Cecil County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
And I appreciate your leadership through these difficult bills. I know that we've spoken a lot about national issues, what's happening with executive branch agencies. I just kind of want to dial it back to what I was sent here to represent, which is Cecil County. If you take a look at the fiscal note, you'll see that Cecil County is mentioned in there and that we have a jail enforcement program. And I want to stress that that program is only exercised within the confines of the jail. I also kind of want to provide a little bit more background about the training that the folks that administer this program have to go through. And I'm reading this directly from a slide deck that was prepared by our sheriff in Cecil County. ICE provides a 4-week entry-level training program and a 1-week refresher every 2 years, conducted by certified instructors at the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center, the ICE Academy. And during that training, cross-cultural communications and the avoidance of racial profiling is part of that required training. It's at no cost. ICE also provides equipment and oversight. And currently there are no county employees at the Cecil County Sheriff's Department that are purely dedicated to the 287G program. They just help administer it, okay? This training also comes with lodging because they have to go to South Carolina, again, paid for by ICE. The reason that I bring this up is because these folks have already been detained. All arrest, all folks that are coming through the intake process are screened, all. They're not selectively screened on the way that they look or the language that they're using. This is everyone. Everyone that comes through the Cecil County Detention Center is screened. And there are no on-the-street law enforcement officers that are authorized to conduct immigration enforcement. This is purely happening within the confines of the jail. Now, why is this so important in Cecil County? Because Cecil County is a rural area equally distanced from Baltimore, Wilmington, and Philadelphia. We have been designated also by the federal government as a high-intensity drug trafficking area. We are bisected by Route 95. So what happens is that we have become somehow an outpost for some of the worst of society. Folks that didn't grow up in Cecil County, folks that aren't native to Cecil County, and they're using Cecil as an outpost to be able to operate drug cartels, murder, all of the crimes that we've heard, and we've actually arrested on numerous occasions, and we talked about this last year when we debated the bill, folks that are wanted by the federal law enforcement. That is why this program is so important to us. I mentioned my sheriff. My sheriff and I got elected around the same time. And unfortunately, he's done a fantastic job. He has decided that he is no longer going to run for re-election. This is one of the major reasons that he and so many other people in law enforcement are walking away from their jobs, because the tools that they use to keep us safe and to keep our community safe that are highly regulated are being taken away from them. That's why today I'm asking you to put up a red vote. We've had this program since 1996. It's working at Cecil, and it's going to have a terrible impact on my constituents if it passes. Please offer a red vote. Thank you.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just wanted
welcome.
to address a comment from the gentleman. He mentioned this is a jail enforcement model, and I don't disagree with him on that, but they still have to get picked up to get to the jail for that screening to even begin. And the question becomes, when they are stopped or when they're seen doing something, it's at the discretion of the officer to determine whether or not they're going to arrest that person to take them to the jail for the screening. And that is the piece that I think is missing, and that is the concern that we've heard over and over and over again from individuals about why this program is not effective, is because it encourages, honestly, racial profiling, unfortunately, in some instances. And I'm not saying that's what's happening all the time, but that is the fear and the concern. So I just wanted to bring that up. Also, I wanted to talk about, I think earlier there was a discussion about a poll. And so the poll, I think, as was discussed, was conducted, from my understanding, about 808 registered voters. And it simply asks a simple question. Do you agree about running background checks in coordination with ICE? That's all the question was. It doesn't talk about 287G agreements. It doesn't talk about what these agreements do, the effect of it. There was nothing mentioned about that in the poll. So I think to say that all of these Marylanders are in favor of keeping 287G agreements when the poll doesn't even mention 287G agreements is a little bit inaccurate. So I just wanted to kind of raise those 2 points, Madam Speaker. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Recognizing the gentleman from Hartford County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
And I just want to follow up with a couple additional points. I know there's been a lot of conversation. I know this is very emotional for folks, and I want to stay very much on the facts of the program and get away from some of the things that have been said that I don't believe are accurate. One of the things that was said quite a bit the other day in our debate was talking about that the individuals who get caught up in the 287G program won't face justice in the United States. And I think we thoroughly unpacked the fact that Rachel Morin's murderer faced justice in a county that has a 287G program. He is now currently serving a life sentence for the brutal crime he committed against her. But also, I do want to address some of the concerns of the majority party, another misunderstanding of the 287G program. One of the concerns I've heard, and if I'm mischaracterizing it, please forgive me, but my understanding, your concern is ICE entering communities in the state of Maryland. Well, that's what the 287G program prevents, at least in the most successful program in the country in Hartford County. In Hartford County, in 2025, 96 individuals were referred to ICE. Have no idea how many of those individuals may or may not have been deported or actions with them. But you know what's happened 0 times in the last at least 5 years in Hartford County? ICE entering the community. ICE has not entered a community in Hartford County not one time. And it's because of the 287G program. And the 287G program doesn't talk about immigrants. It doesn't even deal with illegal immigration. It deals with illegal immigration individuals who've committed a crime. That's all it deals with. It's very narrow in scope. So we've had a lot of conversations about what 287G is and is not. That's what it deals with. It doesn't deal with 287. It doesn't deal with illegal immigration. It doesn't deal with ICE going in the community. Frankly, it has the opposite effect. It doesn't have ICE going in to communities and having communities be in fear of them entering the community. In Harford County, those communities don't have that fear because they don't go into the communities because of this program. Because ICE is able to make contact with individuals who have committed crimes in Harford County right at the jail. So there's no reason for them to go into the communities in Harford County. And the thing I want to emphasize just one more time, this does not prevent individuals who've committed crime in our communities from facing justice. Again, we have a great example of that right here in Maryland, right here in Harford County with Rachel Morin's murder, who has faced justice. And so with that, again, want to make sure we're focused on what this program does and does not do. So again, I respect everybody's opinion on this bill, but it's been very successful in Harford County and Cecil County in where I represent for all communities in Harford County. And with that, Madam Speaker, I will be voting no on this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Recognizing the majority leader and then the delegate from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Just a point of clarification, a couple points of clarification on some of these existing 287G programs. Again, we said the data from prior years indicates that you have years where 100% of people moving through 287G programs in some counties had no criminal conviction. Again, they might have been criminals. They might have been deported before they were able to serve their time in a Maryland institution. Second, it's important to embed that in your head, not convicted of a crime. Because now we had multiple county leaders from 287G counties come to the Judiciary Committee last week and testify. And what they said was they had no say over where people moving through their counties were later going to be placed. Alligator Alcatraz, Guantanamo, Seacot in El Salvador, a random African nation that they had never visited. These are among the possibilities that they admitted without a conviction, residents moving through those programs could be sent to. I don't know how in good conscience we could allow a program like that to operate. Third point here, I warned last year when we had this debate on the floor. I was standing right here and I said if ICE was going to continue to target non-criminals in their operations, we were going to lead to a situation where people would be scared to call their local police for help, even if they were a crime victim, if they did not believe the local police were there to help them. I am sad to say that is the situation we face today. It's absolutely the situation we face today. Vast portions of the community, crime victims, will not call the police now for help if they believe their police are helping ICE. Because ICE has said, and it was the testimony of the officials from 287G counties, that ICE will come to your door, they will kick it down, and not only are they going to take the criminal, they're going to take the whole family. That is the testimony from Maryland's 287G law enforcement officials who want to expand the program. Now, as to whether these 287G programs keep ICE off of our streets, more bad news for you. ICE bought a $100 million warehouse in Washington County, 825,000 square feet over more than 50 acres. There is zero chance that that is for criminals. In fact, I met with the field director of the ICE Baltimore office last year. Many of us did. He was requesting meetings. He told us they were ramping up a mass deportation campaign, and they had quota numbers to meet. Very specifically, this is what they told us. And we've watched as Trump removed people who were not able to meet quotas. And remember, this is the ICE budget now, $75 billion, is larger than the entire state of Maryland budget. They could literally position someone 24/7 outside of every single Maryland jail, outside of every single Maryland courthouse, and monitor 24/7 the release and criminal docket and just focus on that. But that's not what this is about. The crime is a giant smokescreen. This is about getting our resources to aid in their mass deportation campaign, for which they have built an 825,000 square foot detention camp, or internment camp, as I would call it, again, in Maryland. So no, the presence of these programs is absolutely not going to stop ICE from conducting street enforcement. In fact, no matter what we do, they are telling us there's going to be street enforcement happening in Maryland. And oh, by the way, the person who's running this whole show, the director of CBP, check his papers. He got caught with a $50,000 cash bribe and was pardoned for it.
Recognizing
Madam
the
Speaker.
lady from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you so much. Good morning, body. So we started off with some discussion about Epstein and the Epstein files, and I too am waiting to see them because we know that Bill Clinton will play a prominent role. And Bill Clinton played a prominent role in the 287G program. So he signed into law what then was established later as the 287G program. In an executive order that he signed on February 13th, 1996, quote, Bill Clinton, "We are a nation of immigrants, but we are also a nation of laws. My administration has put in place a complete strategy. We are deporting a record number of criminals and other deportable aliens." That would be Bill Clinton. Deportable aliens would be people who entered our country illegally, which I'll remind you is a crime. Then we go on to President Obama. So President Obama was called by some the deporter-in-chief because President Obama deported 3 million illegal immigrants. He used the 287G program. He staffed it. He didn't abolish it. He strengthened it. And he shifted the focus away from street policing. He prioritized jail-based screening models. That's what we've been talking about. That is what we use in the state of Maryland, jail-based screening models. And he limited the use to serious offenders and repeat violators. And he signed in a stated enforcement principle about deporting felons. Then fast forward to Joe Biden, and that's why we're here today. Joe Biden let in tens of millions of illegal immigrants. There was no vetting. There was complete open borders, no vetting, no vaccinations, no health checks, no background checks. We all saw the pictures. People lined up, just pouring into our borders, actually including unaccompanied children who were trafficked into this country, about 500,000 minors, many of whom we still cannot find today. That is immoral. That is terrible. So now we've moved to where we are today. And this is why I'm going to vote against this bill, because we need this program. President Obama liked it. President Clinton liked it. Polling shows the public likes it. We had polling a year ago that had an overwhelming majority of people when we asked, do you want to deport criminal illegal immigrants? Democrats, Republicans, Independents, 85% of the people said yes. Independent poll, the Gonzales poll. And then we had another poll, and the floor leader said, well, you didn't use the word 287G. Well, let me tell you what. The public has no idea what 287G is. It's alphabet soup, another 3-number letter, whatever, agency. They don't know what it is. But when you tell them screening every single person who ends up in jail, which, by the way, we're not locking people up for eating a peanut butter and jelly sandwich at the bus stop. Our police are understaffed and underfunded, and they are focused on criminals. So if you've committed a criminal act, you will most likely end up in jail, where you will have a background check run. And finally, I'd just like to point out that we have very high-profile victims of these crimes, and most recently, Dakara Thompson from Prince George's County. And her killer, her murderer, was arrested in Washington, D.C. by the Park Police for DUI or DWI, and they let him go. Instead of seeing that ICE had a detainer on him, he went out, and a few months later, he brutally murdered her and threw her body off a bridge. And if that jail had used the 287G program, Dakara Thompson would be alive today. It is irrational to throw out a program that is simply jail-based, focused on criminal, illegal immigrants. The public is with us. Public safety is with us. And future victims of crime are with us. Please vote against this bill. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the chair of the committee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. You know, a thing works until it doesn't. And quite frankly, the criminal records of any adult are online. Anybody can look it up. And I bet anyone in this chamber that ICE has the resources to look up and to determine whether or not they have a detainer for anyone who is in Maryland case search. I bet you that. The other thing is, we talk about individual or public safety, and I will say that there is no victim that has been harmed by anyone, documented or undocumented, who will go unrecognized by this chamber. We care about all victims. So this is not a bill that would somehow put those victims aside, forget about them, nor is it drafted to create more victims. The purpose of this bill is for federal agents to do their job and for state law enforcement to do their job. We have separate pockets. The state is allowed to protect those individuals that come within the borders of the state of Maryland. The federal government has the task of protecting or prosecuting those individuals that come within the borders of the nation. We do not need to do ICE's job for them. They literally do not need our help. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome. Recognizing the minority leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My colleague, the majority leader, made a couple of points that I felt necessary to address. First of all, he said that some of these counties, all of the people subjected to ICE enforcement under the 287G program, that they haven't been convicted. Yesterday, or whatever day it was, all the days start to begin to run together here lately. We offered an amendment to solve that and say, just use 287G for people who have been convicted and have been sentenced to more than 180 days, and every single member of the majority party, every single member said no. So you can't tell me that your concern is that people who have not been convicted are being deported, because we offered you the ability to make the policy better. I know that many of you think that we come here and we debate and we discuss and we offer amendments just for politics, just to catch you this way, catch us this way, but that is not true. None of you have to come here and do what we have to do. None of you. Virtually none of you ever offer an amendment. Virtually none of you, other than the floor leader, ever has to do anything. Policy set in stone when it gets here. We're not talking about it anymore. Very rarely in my 12 years here have I heard a member of the majority party say, we think this amendment has merit. It happens once, twice a year. It's usually a small technical thing, and we appreciate it. But I never hear somebody say, you know what, That makes sense. I just said that what I'm concerned about is people who are innocent or potentially innocent and they're being swept up by ICE. They haven't been convicted yet. The Republicans are offering an amendment to resolve that concern and make this apply to anybody who's been convicted and sentenced to a fairly significant 180-day or more term of imprisonment. Nah. I remember a former colleague who was the vice chair of my committee from Howard County, who's not here anymore, but many years ago he said, I just get up sometimes and go, just go red. Go red on that amendment. Red, I said, and that's what everybody did. Everybody. It could have been the greatest amendment in the world. It could have been an amendment to pave the streets of Montgomery County in gold, and everybody would have been like, I said red, I said it goes red. So we addressed that concern. We addressed that consideration. And the point that, well, these 287G participatory counties, they don't know where the illegal immigrant charged criminals in their custody, they don't know where they're going. They might be going to Alligator Alcatraz. They might be going to CCOT. They might be going wherever. Guess where else they don't know where they're going? When they're picked up on the street. When they allow them to leave the prison, the jail cell, and a day later, a week later, a month later, a year later, ICE picks them up, guns drawn at their kids' school, guns drawn at their apartment complex. We don't have any control where they go either, because for the 75 millionth time, we aren't Congress. You're not in charge of the United States of America. Not even close. 6.3 million out of 350 million. That's all we got. If it's not enough for you, run for Congress. It's enough for me. If it's not enough for you, run. You keep wanting to change federal policy. We've been here 3 weeks, and I've heard the terms Trump, Clinton, and Biden more than I think I've ever heard in my 11 years here. I literally feel like we're in Congress, and all we're doing is debating national immigration policy, which we aren't in charge of, and we can't change, and we can't affect. But we sure can send that virtue signal if we don't like it. I don't like some of it either. But we operate in the system which exists. And the last thing is we talk about there's a facility that the federal government has purchased in Hagerstown through ICE or through a coordinate agency, and they may intend to use that as a processing center. I don't know. We can't send them to Alligator Alcatraz. We can't send them to CCOT. We can't send them anywhere. I don't think any of those things are good. Quite frankly, I don't think any of those things are good ideas. But now we can't have a facility perhaps nearer to where they live, where their loved ones may be able to visit or see them. We can't do that either. What the hell is the solution? We cannot do anything. We just have to accept things the way they are, and we just have to allow criminals who are not lawfully in our country to continue to exist and to continue to run wild and to continue to do whatever they want. And the only solution is ICE can come get them, guns drawn, in our communities. All we want to do is provide a vehicle through which individuals who may potentially be dangerous, who may be convicted of crimes, who may be charged with serious crimes, we want to provide a safe, logical way for them to cooperate with federal law enforcement so that they can be removed from that setting consistent with federal immigration law that you can't change. That's all.
Gentleman from Montgomery County. I'm sorry, Frederick.
Oh, thank you, Madam Speaker. And colleagues, I want to take the minority leader's comments and kind of recycle or recenter kind of the conversation that we're talking about here about public safety and about effective law enforcement. That's what we're really talking about here, friends, is what is effective law enforcement. I come from a multi-generational family of law enforcement officers who all worked in the Montgomery County Police Department for years and years and years. And there's one thing that I watched day in and day out that I need to watch now in Frederick play out, day in and day out, and that's effective law enforcement practices. Because folks, we have a city police department that I represent, Frederick City Police Department. They handle a vast number of violent criminal offenses that happen in our county. And they do it effectively, and it spreads across all communities equally, and they do it because the person committed a crime. And when they do, they are prosecuted. And if during that detainment they are found to be an undocumented immigrant, they work with ICE and they deal with that question as well. Our sheriff's office in Frederick County has taken a different approach. They've decided that they will use their own subjective interpretation to decide if and when they will detain people, to report them for nonviolent crimes, for violent crimes, for anything. It's completely subjective with them. And that's how an individual in Frederick County who was just sitting there eating a sandwich one day got suddenly randomly arrested, suddenly ended up in prison, ended up with deportation paperwork filed against her, ended up having to sue for her rights, won a multi-million-dollar lawsuit at taxpayer expenses, friends, and as soon as the bill came due, conveniently ICE stepped back in and said, nope, we're going to try to move on you again. After her civil rights were completely infringed and ignored. Community policing is difficult, friends. Community policing is challenging. It requires time, energy, effort. It requires you to build relationships in communities that many times law enforcement doesn't look like. In the city of Frederick, our police force works day in and day out to build relationships, and they do it for one reason, and they're very honest about it, because they want our communities in Frederick, especially our marginalized communities in Frederick, to be the ones to hold each other accountable. When there is violent crime, that they call the police. When somebody is committing an act that is a crime, that they hold the community itself accountable. And it has been effective, and it is undercut by the 287G program, because this program terrorizes my residents in my community. They don't seek out law enforcement help because they don't know what minor infraction will lead to this discussion. What minor inconvenience will suddenly lead to a conversation that will then lead to a contact and a detainment and an ICE contact and suddenly deportation to another country, as our majority leader has pointed out time and time and time again. Effective law enforcement, community policing is complex, it's challenging, and it's difficult. Programs like 287G, I cannot stress enough, frustrate that process, make it worse, make our public less safe, make our communities less communicative with law enforcement. We need to be better at this. We need to know better. We need to understand the science behind how we can effectively and safely protect and serve our communities. And for all those reasons, Madam Speaker, I'm proudly voting green on this bill, and I encourage my colleagues to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you. Recognizing the gentleman from Southern Maryland.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Seems like a little bit of deja vu from 24 hours ago, or less than 24 hours ago. Obviously, HB 444 is a very volatile issue. It's causing a lot of action and reaction. And I'll say I don't think this bill will solve the problem. Rather, I think it's going to exacerbate it. So the Speaker said, bring it local. So I addressed this question to both the sheriffs of St. Mary's County and Calvert County. St. Mary's has a 287G agreement. Calvert County does not. What I want to make sure, though, is that those sheriffs, how they were handling the situation. And they've assured me that their departments handle federal warrants and immigration matters privately. Both have assured me that the officers are not conducting sweeps or accompanying ICE or Homeland Security to round up individuals. They view these agreements as a law enforcement tool, and a tool in their tool case used to protect and provide public safety. It's not being used to advance the agenda and still fear. I have a lot of confidence in those sheriffs and those professionals in both those counties. And I do believe that they are not using these agreements to be misused locally. They're not being used to drive an agenda. And for those reasons, I'll be voting red on this bill. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
And I know there's people that have spoken already. You don't get a second bite until people that have not spoken get to speak. All right, so now we have the young lady I saw first actually, they're both from Hartford County, the one to my right.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I appreciate you allowing me to speak. I just feel that some of the folks who have testified here, even from the folks that are going to vote red versus green, believe that their county is doing what their citizenry want. One doesn't have the 287G, and except for their counties or their cities, but the other one has it and one doesn't. Maryland has really always been concerned America in miniature because it's so diverse and it's so different. Each county kind of decides how they're going to run things, and their residents determine that to their county council, to their sheriff, to their municipalities. My feeling is that because Maryland is so diverse, and let's say the three jurisdictions, the major jurisdictions, Montgomery, Prince George's, and Baltimore City, they want to do away with the 287G. That's what their constituents want. That's why all of the delegates are going to be voting green in those counties, in those jurisdictions. The rest of us, there is a mixed bag. And I think it's important that we do what our citizens want. And my citizens in Hartford County want the 287G. They support the federal and 287G with the sheriff's office. And it's worked. Now, unfortunately, we had two horrible, horrible deaths. We had Kayla Hamilton, and we also had Rachel Morin. Quite honestly, I know everybody's saying, oh, the feds are spending all this money. Do you honestly think that their family wouldn't pay billions of dollars to get those two ladies back? They were both horrifically killed. It was horrible. It was horrible, horrible, horrible. And the bottom line is that Kayla, her boyfriend, heard the whole murder on the phone because she was high-functioning autistic, and she called him. The guy broke in, and then he proceeded to strangle her and to also violate her. It was horrible, and he ended up in a mental institution. As far as Rachel Morin, it was so graphic and she had 5 children, and both of those families testified in a judiciary hearing in the House of Representatives down in Washington. So what I'm saying is let each jurisdiction have that option to do what they want. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. The other delegate from Hartford County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
I was inspired to share this story. I don't know how many of you have already heard it because a lot of folks are new, by the gentleman from Frederick. But I just wanted to explain a little bit more about my county. Several years ago, Hartford County has had 287G for a long time. Several years ago, there was a horrific killing in my county. It was a workplace shooting. Some of you may have heard about it. I was intimately connected to that because the owners of the business were close family friends. And many of the victims and the witnesses were here illegally. We did not have a problem with those folks coming forward to testify. They were not scared or stopped by the 287G program. They weren't scared or stopped by the aggressive policing, maybe that against illegal immigration that seems to be perceived that happens in my county. They were not. They were offered by the sheriff, the same sheriff that put the 287G program into place, visas so that they could stay here lawfully in America while that process and that litigation played out. And they all took the opportunity to come forward, not just to report these crimes, but to participate in the actual adjudication of the murderer who killed their coworkers and family members for some of them. So I just want to bring us back down to reality here. A lot of the fear in public in some of your communities is because it is being actively stoked every day. We are creating the fear because when Biden was in office, this fear was not a problem. The program existed. We had people living in Hartford County illegally, many of whom I knew. They were not afraid. They were not living afraid. This program is not the problem. And I understand, as the minority leader spoke, that there is a visceral need from some folks here to change immigration policy at the federal level. We are not doing that. We are not doing that. But what you are doing is you are taking away what is the safest tool we have to remove folks who are here, who are committing crimes and who are here illegally. Their first crime, I'm sorry, is coming here illegally. Then they get picked up for a second crime, usually a more serious crime. I'm sorry, this is facts. If you don't like it, go to DC. I know some of you from your speeches might be headed that direction. There will be consequences, not just because the Trump administration is going to come down harder on Maryland, as we all know. There will be human consequences, and I want to make sure everybody on the floor here knows that you will have participated, just like many of you who voted for dignity, not detention. What you actually voted for, as I said when that bill passed, was to remove the option to house folks in the deportation process locally. So they go to Baltimore, where it's a lot more uncomfortable now because they have to hold a lot more folks. And then they get sent to Texas, far away from their families, far away from their lawyers. That was a terrible bill and a terrible policy. Appalling. But you guys, many of you voted for you. Not the new guys, I know it wasn't you.
Delegate, let's stay with this bill, please.
It's third reader debate, Madam Speaker.
No, but you still have to stay with the reader, with the bill, please.
Madam Speaker, you know, with all due respect, my colleague from Charles County was allowed to go on a 40-minute tirade about Donald Trump on a bill about redistricting. I'm speaking about immigration policy
He connected it, and many people that are here were not here when that bill came. So please, respectfully, let's just stay with the bill.
Respectfully, I'm educating them, Madam Speaker, on the bill that had a huge impact on why we're here today. That is exactly what I'm doing.
Let's stay with the facts of this bill, please. There's still a whole list of people that want to speak, or I'm going to take the call and then just let you explain the vote. I've been really flexible. Let's just stay with the bill, please.
This has been the opposite of flex. You have called me out specifically for doing what you would have allowed the majority party to do repeatedly. You have called me out specifically more than once after many people have gone on wild tangents unrelated to the topic.
We are not going to get into it. Please stay with the bill, okay?
You know what, Madam
Because
Speaker?
what happens is if you do that, guess what? Someone else is going to get up and they're going to do the same. So from my perspective, as I'm standing here, one action has a reaction. You can go ahead and do it, but someone else is going to get up and do the same thing.
I'm very confused with the inequity in treatment, Madam Speaker. I'm
It's
disappointed.
not, I hope you don't
disappointed and
take it that
confused.
way, but please stay with
Well,
with the bill.
I do take it that way. Absolutely take it.
I'm sorry
It is
you're taking it
it's
that
really
way.
a sad thing when we are allowed to spend 40 minutes talking about Donald Trump on a redistricting bill.
That
but when I
was
speak-
different. He was.
Oh, okay.
He was the floor leader. As the floor leader.
Oh, okay.
Okay, he was the floor leader that
Right.
introduced the bill, and there was an amendment. So it's very different.
Okay,
And
so-
he was the floor leader on that bill.
Madam
That is very
Speaker.
different.
So to
Are you going
understand-
to continue or not? Because I will go ahead and then
Madam
call on the
Speaker.
next person. Are you going to continue or not?
Yeah, I have one more
Please.
clarifying question. I just want to understand.
No question. Stick with the issue. I am not on the floor. Please.
This is really unbelievable, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker,
I'm calling on the parliamentarian.
thank you, Madam Speaker. Colleague, I just want to remind the body that the Speaker determines all points of order. The Speaker determines us keeping our procedure moving, and that is very, very clear in our rules. The Speaker has asked simply that on third reader, while we can have long comments, which we've had a lot of lately, but they must stay on the topic of the bill. That's what she is pointing out. We shouldn't be having a back and forth argument with the Speaker. Her point about us staying on the bill is 100% accurate. The question before the House right now is, shall this bill pass? Each person that's standing up should be making their point as to why the bill should pass or why the bill should not pass. That is the only topic that should be discussed, and that is the question before the House. So let's please refrain from having a back and forth with Madam Speaker. She determines all points of order, and I just want to respectfully just ask the colleague, we're all ready to listen to your points around the bill in terms of why it should or should not pass, and if we can move forward with that discussion, please. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
No, I am going to recognize the young lady from Hartford that is talking. Please, go ahead, proceed.
Thank you, Madam
Thank
Speaker. This chamber feels like it's being run like a third world dictatorship that is silencing the opinions of the minority. That's what it feels like, and I said what I said.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Please call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote?
Madam Speaker.
Not yet?
My button is not on.
Yes, 1 second while they fix it.
Madam Speaker, explaining my vote.
Go ahead. Recognizing the delegate from Prince George's.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. You know, colleagues, I have a green vote on this board, and so do the rest of the majority of the House of Delegates, because we understand the realities that are happening in our communities. A lot of what was presented on the floor today, I wish I could live in that world. I wish we did not have a president that had quotas to detect bodies of my neighbors every single day that are immigrants. I wish we lived in a world where 287G was a program that only tackled criminals. You know, the crime that a lot of folks spoke about is not criminal in nature, it is civil. And unlike a lot of the other jailhouse attorneys on this floor, I'm proudly one of them, I understand the difference. And so a green vote on this board is to protect all of Marylanders, to protect every single person who does not get a chance to come up to Annapolis, who even knows our names or what we do here. We have a responsibility, and I'll say it every single day I get a chance to protect the most vulnerable among us. This bill helps us do just that. You heard a lot from our colleagues about what public safety looks like, what it doesn't look like. 287G with this current administration and this current moment is not keeping us safer. And so for those reasons, that is why you see so many green votes on this board, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker. Gentleman from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
Everything we've heard on this floor today has been a bold-faced lie. Anytime you hear the word communities about this bill, it's a lie.
You see, 1 second. When the delegate said that, did you see the reaction?
Yes.
This is what I was saying before.
It is important.
Okay? So let's try to be respectful, okay?
I think the respectful thing to do for the people of Maryland is not to lie to them. The language that has been used here today is snatching children. We are painting this picture. The picture in reality is of people working at desks making peaceful transfers of convicted criminals. We're talking about communities. We're talking about snatching children. What a complete and utter lie. I'd like to make one final point. After the 9/11 Commission, the dysfunction in public safety, the big broad point was made was that federal, state, and local government needed to act together, to work together, to communicate more effectively, to have better public safety. The chair of the committee said that's their job. Working with the federal government about people who are detained locally for immigration law violations and local criminal violations is our job. And what is clear is that the people on this floor are saying we just don't want to do it. And I think we are subjugating Marylanders to the crimes that we are suffering. And I'm voting against this bill because I think we should put Marylanders first.
Recognizing the delegate from Prince George's County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. To explain my green vote, I'm actually voting green today for Dakara Thompson, and thank you for mentioning her, my colleague from Baltimore County. Dakara Thompson was a missing young black woman who was ultimately murdered by a person who was in the U.S. Park Police custody. And the U.S. Park Police, the federal agency, failed to notify ICE. It is a failure of our federal government that is not doing their job as it relates to immigration enforcement. And what our law enforcement officers should be doing is looking for missing women like Dakara. What our law enforcement officers should be doing is protecting our citizens. And unfortunately, we've heard a lot about one segment of 287G. That's the jailhouse warrant. But there are other portions of 287G. There are task force. There are warrant services where our officers can be deputized to go into our communities and terrorize our citizens like we're seeing in Minnesota. It is one of the options. And so what this bill will do is it will not allow those things to happen, because we cannot have another Peretti in this state or anywhere else in the United States. I refuse to stand by and watch U.S. citizens being murdered in cold blood by the federal government. It is an atrocity, and so I'm voting green because it's not just the programs, it's not just the transfers that take place in prison. There are other sections of 287G, and we have not discussed those, and I don't think it's appropriate for our law enforcement officers to be engaged in those activities. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome. Recognizing the delegate from Baltimore City, and then I'll come this way.
My colleagues, we have debated these two bills, this bill, the bills yesterday, because of the facts, the actions that have threatened our democracy, the right to vote, that are being contemplated, articulated by the President of the United States. This is not some policy we've devised. This is not Lyndon Johnson coming before the Congress after Bloody Sunday and saying, "We shall overcome." This is a threat to our democracy, and it's something that we have an obligation to respond to by casting, in this instance, a green vote. Thank you.
Recognize delegate from Baltimore City.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, in explaining my vote, I read from the website constitution.congress.gov. The Fifth Amendment provides that no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. The Fifth Amendment's due process clause protects all persons within U.S. territory, including corporations, aliens, and presumptive citizens seeking readmission to the United States. Madam Speaker, in the face of an administration that has clearly demonstrated its disregard for this and many other clauses in our Constitution, I'm happy to vote green today. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Recognizing the minority whip.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. In explaining my vote, I just would like to remind the group here and ask, really it's more of an ask, that when we're applying certain rules or procedural rules related to debate, second reader debate, third reader debate, let's make sure that those are equal across the board for everybody. And I think we can all agree that that should be the way it is. And I think if we do that, members may feel less the need to get up and say something. And so I hope that going forward that we can all be on the same page as far as debate time and things that are said, and that the rules are equal amongst everyone in here. That way people don't feel like they're being targeted or singled out. And I know that the Madam Speaker will do a good job with that. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And we did yesterday, did a good job at that, and everybody got to speak, to the point where when we got to explaining your vote, people got up again. And some people got up 2 and 3 times, and we did that. Plain and simple, these are very personal, difficult bills. We just have to try not to insult each other and to be kind. Simply put, because if we insult someone, you're going to get a reaction, okay? And that is how it's going to happen. Thank you, but I do take your comment, and I will be very mindful as we move forward, okay? Thank you. I'm going to call on the lady from Montgomery County, then I'm coming to my left, okay?
Thank you,
And
Madam.
also, I do see you and I keep a note, all right? So I am going to get to you, and I did that yesterday, and I will try to do that in all the proceedings. Just be patient.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Colleagues, I rise to explain my green vote as a daughter of Ghanaian immigrants. I waited over 20 years to do something like this. March 2003 was when ICE was first formed when I was a college student after 9/11 at the University of Maryland. So today, colleagues, I am putting public safety over politics, because I never agreed with ICE using Maryland to criminalize people trying to achieve the American dream. Today's vote removes Maryland and what has become a weapon of white supremacy, threatening and killing anyone that's in alignment, not in alignment, excuse me, with the erasure of our diversity and humanity for all.
Madam Speaker.
Today's vote gives light to our children.
Hold on one second. Excuse me, 1 minute.
Madam Speaker.
1 minute.
I have to defend ICE officers. They are officers under federal government.
Delegate, can I ask you something?
They're not
No, no.
white supremacy.
Hold on 1 second.
They're not white supremacists.
You can get up and say that when you explain your vote, okay? Please. Please.
They're being impugned.
When you get up, you could do that. This is exactly what I was telling you, that you have to be kind and listen, okay? When you get your opportunity to speak, you have 2 minutes. You can go ahead and defend who you want, okay? Go ahead and proceed.
Today's vote is also giving light to our children who are walking in fears and in tears over themselves, their parents, and their classmates. I've been seeing it for months in the interim. Children coming up to me at church saying, what's happening to my classmate? Parents organizing how to get their kids to school because the biological parent can't. This is a safety mechanism for Maryland. Today's vote is allowing places of worship to actually be a place of worship and not a place to hide from being captured. Literally before coming on this floor, I'm getting another email from another church about how they're organizing themselves to protect themselves from ICE. This bill, this green vote, is a tool for public safety. Today's vote is showing that while we have seeds of faith that have been buried in tears and in fear and in horror, what's growing out of that with this green vote is a garden of love and grace for all of us. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Recognizing first, I said I will go to my left, and then I'm going to go to the gentleman in the back, okay? Recognizing the delegate from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm voting green on this bill because it is a public safety bill. ICE does not enforce criminal law. They are only authorized to enforce immigration. Who conducts criminal law enforcement is our local law enforcement. They cannot do that if they don't have the trust of the community. And I want to talk for a minute about my own county, Baltimore County, which signed a memorandum of understanding with the federal government. And in that memorandum of understanding, from this FAQ on the Baltimore County website, it says, who would be in the Baltimore County Detention Center that could be affected by this policy? People in the detention center who are, 1, awaiting trial, 2, have been convicted of a crime and are serving short-term sentences, or 3, have had charges dropped and are in the process of being released. So people who are being released after their charges are dropped can be transferred to ICE under this policy. For the record, I've opposed 287G agreements since 2017 when Baltimore County had a bill to sign up for it. This is not new for me. And these things make people not trust the community. After Baltimore County signed this MOU, I tried to explain to a member of the immigrant community that this didn't mean police would be enforcing in the street, and they told me that police could pick them up on a false charge so that they could then be transferred from the detention center. I am not saying our local police would do that, but that's what the community believes. And it is it any wonder that they fear being transferred to ICE when 32 people last year died in ICE custody. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the gentleman from St. Mary's.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
I just want to correct a couple things that were said on the floor. And as the speaker was talking about earlier, you say one thing, you're going to get a response. This constant demonization of law enforcement is frankly insane. There is absolutely zero proof that ICE members are white supremacists. Matter of fact, I've never even met a white supremacist. Have you? Tell me their names. Stand up on the floor and shout their names. Who the heck has that much power? You do a quick search for who works for ICE, and you will quickly find out that over 30% of the ICE employees are Latino. 16% are African American. They're not white supremacists. And the notion to constantly demonize these people, this whole notion of looking through the worldview through the lenses of the oppressed and the oppressor. Well, Donald Trump, he's an oppressor. He's a Nazi. He's Hitler. Anybody that supports him, they're a bunch of fascists. And it doesn't make a difference if you fall into the oppressed category. If you're a human trafficker or a sex offender, we're going to see your way through, because you know what? ICE is so bad. It's ridiculous. Make your point, argue the bill, and let's have a reasonable discussion. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the gentleman from Prince George's County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Colleagues, I rise proudly to cast a green vote for HB 444, and I have never spoken about a bill before. But as a faith leader, and many people in this chamber profess to be, as I am, a Christian, and how can we as people of faith call individuals illegal aliens when the man that I prayed to in worship himself was an immigrant? I was in the community and I was canvassing and I was talking to some folks, and there was one immigrant that was afraid to answer the door because they did not know if I was an ICE agent or if I was there with an other intended purpose, when I was just simply trying to gauge what their needs were in the community. And so Southern Maryland does not really have a bustling immigrant population, but I would hope that they feel welcome and at home. And this is a common sense bill that uplifts accountability, fairness, and public safety, and I am proudly voting green for this. Thank you.
Recognizing the delegate from Baltimore County to my left.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just wanted to address, earlier it was alluded to that somehow calling out crime in a particular area is racist. I find that insulting. But I heard earlier from the floor leader that we want to make everybody feel welcome in Maryland. Well, I do not want to make the people on this list feel welcome in Maryland. I could run through the list, but we only have 2 minutes if anybody wanted to hear it again. The fact is, there are people on MS-13 on this list. There are people that have committed rape and other violent crimes on this list. And I stand up to vote against this bill because it is policies like this, not cooperating with our federal immigration law enforcement, that encourage more of these people to come to Maryland. And I agree with the floor leader earlier. She said that there was a bipartisan failure in Congress, and I 100% agree with that. But the comment that immigration laws are broken is not true. The problem isn't that the laws are broken, it's that the laws are not enforced in this country and they're not enforced in this state. And because there's not cooperation with federal and at the federal and state level, the entire United States of America has seen millions, tens of millions of illegal aliens invade this country. And because of that, I am voting no, and it isn't fear-mongering. These are real-life examples. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome. Calling the young lady from Hartford County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm
welcome.
standing up to explain my red vote on this bill because I think this body thinks that they can have their cake and eat it too. They say one thing, then they say another. So yesterday we heard that, they love our local law enforcement. And then today, several comments were like, well, no, we like that maybe we don't, because we're not going to let them use their professional response and professional tools, and we don't think that that we should give them discretionary judgment when they are actually pulling someone over for a crime. They can't just stop somebody. They've done something wrong. So, but yet you're okay to give discretionary judgment to our judges when we talked about the case yesterday. So, these are professional men that go through, and women that go through a lot of training, and you have just now taken one tool that will actually keep our communities safe, and I think it's a shame that you want to take their discretionary judgment away from our professional law enforcement. Thank you.
Sorry. Recognizing the young lady from Montgomery County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. As an immigrant, I proudly cast my green vote today for this bill. Over the past year, I have been increasingly concerned and living in disbelief that the country I chose is now acting increasingly like the country I grew up in, with disregard of the rule of law or human dignity. So it is precisely for respect of rule of law and human dignity that I'm casting my green vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Recognizing the lady from Prince George's County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
I've always been in support of our local police. Some of my closest, dearest friends are neighbors. But this is not about our local police. What has happened in this country in the last year has changed everything. Things that I never thought could ever happen have happened before our very eyes. And I will not be complicit. I will not stand silent. I will say no to all the things that I'm seeing in our communities here in Maryland and across this country. We have an agency where there is a memo that says they do not have to have a warrant to knock down your door and drag you out into the street, which they did to an 80-year-old man in his underwear in Minnesota in the dead of winter. This has to stop, and this is our first step in trying to stand against the tyranny that overshadows us.
Seeing the young lady from Frederick County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Quote, we're going to keep focusing enforcement resources on actual threats to our security. Felons, not families. Criminals, not children. Gang members, not a mom who's working hard to provide for her kids. That is what President Obama said in 2014, and that is what my no vote on this bill does. We talked yesterday about how different counties prefer to cooperate with federal agencies in different ways, some with formal agreements, and some more offline. Those decisions should be left to the duly elected law enforcement in that county. We have heard from the experts on the ground, those actually tasked with keeping our families safe, and their message is clear. This legislation is a direct threat to public safety. The 287G program is not about targeting neighbors. It is a jail-based program that ensures we are not releasing violent criminals back into our streets to reoffend. It happens at the jail, not when they are picked up, and they're not being racially profiled, nor is there any searching of the streets. These are not people pulled over for a broken taillight. These are individuals arrested for serious crimes. By passing this, we are effectively tying the hands of a constitutionally elected officer and forcing federal agents out of our jails and into the neighborhoods and for street raids, therefore putting entire communities at risk. And if it is the federal government's, as it is, job to enforce immigration laws, just how do you expect them to then do that job? What does that look like for our communities? By banning this partnership, you are creating a revolving door for international gang members and repeat offenders. You are mandating that our sheriffs look at a dangerous individual and say, I know who you are, I know what you've done, but my hands are tied by Annapolis. Is that a Maryland value? To knowingly release someone back into a neighborhood where their victims are still healing. This bill isn't an act of compassion. It's an abandonment of public safety and a betrayal of every crime victim in this state, and that's
The
why I
lady's
voted no.
time is up. Thank you. Recognizing the delegate from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I'm voting green, and I'm going to explain why. I heard a comment from my chair that a program works until it doesn't. Well, other administrations, as indicated just before, have used this program. And the Obama administration began to scale back drastically after investigations that the administration itself did on itself and found civil rights violations, and the program had grown significantly too fast. Here's why we need to vote green. One, the massive expansion since 2017 has caused it to go out of control, and we're not able to deal with that. Two, the expansion of the priorities. Under Obama, since Obama, the priorities have shifted. They were focused on individuals with criminal records or threats to public safety, but now we're talking about priorities of just all undocumented individuals. Increased racial profiling and violation of civil rights. This has clearly been documented by many of the people who have spoken today. And finally, and this is the most important, the erosion of community trust. The erosion of trust in our law enforcement. If we can't have trust in our law enforcement, then I don't think that we can live in a free society. So I'm voting green because I want to bring back trust in our police. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 99 votes in the affirmative and 40 votes in the negative, House Bill 444, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill.
Report of the Committee on Environment and Transportation, Report Number 1, House Bill 1, Investor-Owned Electric Gas and Electric Companies, Cost Recovery, Limitations, Favorable Amendments, Amendment Number 1.
Recognizing the chair of the committee.
Madam Speaker.
Yes.
Move so much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So order.
Amendment number 1 adds sponsors and makes technical changes. Amendment number 2 alters the applicability of the ratepayer cost recovery limitations in the bill as introduced. More specifically, the amendment removes ratepayer cost recovery options on certain employee bonuses and removes related expenses. Expands applicability of the ratepayer cost recovery prohibition, including the parent company of an investor-owned electric, gas, or combination and gas utility or any other affiliate or utility. Increases the maximum ratepayer cost recovery threshold to 110% of the PSC chair. Clarifies the vision and dental insurance are also included from a compensation for purposes of ratepayer cost recovery and the bill. And it modifies requirements for the company-wide limitation policy required under the bill and requires updated policies to be provided by the Public Service Commission. Madam Speaker, move the amendments.
The question before the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendment is adopted. The question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended.
Madam Speaker.
Oh, go ahead.
Can you let me finish? It's okay. Thank you. I appreciate it. The question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill to its title? Recognizing the gentleman from Anne Arundel, and thank you for being patient.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're
I got
welcome.
out of order there. Can the floor leader just rise for a quick question?
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Good.
I'm assuming the purpose of this bill is to kind of bring the ratepayers' costs down a bit.
Yeah, I mean, as we've all seen with the entire state, the whole PJM, we've seen utility costs rise dramatically, in some cases 2 and 3x over the last few years. So that's what this bill helps to address.
Okay. And was there any committee testimony on what sort of, I guess, a decrease in cost we might be expecting if this is to pass?
Yeah, so we had some basic ideas, but as the bill is amended, it's hard to determine exactly what that number is. I think the important thing to focus on is that it really pushes those salaries that are above $250,000 to shareholders. So in all those profits that Exelon's making, the big companies are making.
Sure. Do you mind if we special order this till tomorrow so I can take a look at it and then possibly have an amendment for
And to my chair.
Madam Speaker.
As in the chair of the committee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Is this where I start talking about Trump or Biden?
Please.
Okay.
Please don't.
No, happy to accept the special order. Thank you, Delegate.
Thank you, Mr.
And just
Chairman.
a reminder, if you won't mind sharing any potential amendments with the committee, we appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome. The question before the House is to special order House Bill number 1. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, say no. The ayes have it. House Bill 1 has been special order until the appropriate time. Letters of reassignment. Oh, one more? See, we want to finish quickly. The clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 190, Constitutional Amendment, Form of County Government, Requirement to Adopt Charter Home Rule, re-referred to Government, Labor, and Elections.
Letters of reassignment. The clerk will read the letter.
House Bill 420, reassigned to Government, Labor, and Elections and Health. House Bill 614, reassigned to Appropriations.
Hearing no objection, the letters are ordered journalized. Okay, that ends the work at the desk. Committee announcements, appropriations,
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Appropriations Committee will meet at 1 o'clock in the committee room. Thank you.
economic matters.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Economic Matters will meet for a briefing following the session. We will also have 1 p.m. bill hearings followed by a subcommittee chair meeting.
Environment and transportation.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The House Environment and Transportation Committee will have briefings in the committee room at 1 p.m., followed by bill hearings.
Government, labor, and elections.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. GLE will meet for a briefing at 1 p.m.
Health.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Health Committee will meet at 1 p.m. for a committee briefing, followed by bill hearings. And please listen for subcommittee announcements.
Judiciary.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The House Judiciary Committee will be having bill hearings today at 1 p.m.
Ways and Means.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Ways and Means Committee will hold bill hearings at 1 p.m. in the committee room.
Subcommittee announcements. Recognizing the young lady from Montgomery County, and then we'll go to the other one.
I appreciate the young part, Madam
Of course.
Speaker. The Insurance Subcommittee will be meeting at 12:15 on Zoom today.
Recognizing the other young lady from Montgomery County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Always lovely to follow the wonderful young lady from Montgomery County. The Health and Social Services Subcommittee on Appropriations will be joining the full Committee on Health for their briefing at 1. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other subcommittee announcements? Seeing none, we're now to delegation announcements. Recognizing the delegate from Howard County, followed by the delegate from Cecil.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Howard County delegation will be meeting tomorrow morning at 8:30 via Zoom. Thank you.
Recognizing the delegate from Cecil County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The
You're
Cecil
welcome.
delegation will meet tomorrow at 3 p.m. via Zoom to discuss bills and funding requests. Thank you.
Any other delegation announcement? Recognizing the young lady from Prince George's.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Prince George's County Affairs Committee will be meeting tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. via Zoom.
Recognizing the young lady from Prince George's County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Prince George's Law Enforcement Committee will be meeting tomorrow at 9 a.m.
Any other delegation announcements? Seeing none, we're going out to caucus announcements. Recognizing the chair of the Latino Caucus.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Colleagues, tomorrow morning, 8:45 a.m., we have our next installment of Cafe Con Amigo. We have the county executives from Montgomery and Anne Arundel County joining us. Please be on time.
Recognizing the delegate from Anne Arundel.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Veterans Caucus will meet tomorrow at 08 a.m. That's 8 a.m. for civilians. Do your push-ups before you get there.
Recognizing the Chair of Rules.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for the Vampire Caucus. The blood drive is tomorrow, and you don't actually need to sign up with an appointment. You can just come. They usually have 4 different nurses taking blood in the bloodmobile. It will be right outside the House office building. It is the gift of life. It is nonpartisan in every possible way. We are all have the same red blood. And so please share it with those you can. If you can give blood, it will save lives. And it will, you can at least finish this session knowing that you've done at least one good thing for the people of this state. I know that not everybody can, but I do appreciate anybody's effort to make it. Thank you very much.
Recognizing the Chair of the Black Caucus for the Black History Moment from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Today is the 3rd day of Black History Month, and I am honored as the chair of the Black History, as the chair of the Black Caucus, to share a Black History moment that is deeply personal. A story not from a textbook, but from my own family. Some of the members of this body are familiar with this story, but today I'm going to share this story with the words coming directly from the subject of this Black History moment. These will be the excerpts of a written recollection for which I was entrusted some 15 years ago. It's the recollection in the original manuscript that is held in this binder. My uncle and godfather, McKinley Scott, was a civil rights leader in Cecil County, Maryland. He was one of the founders of the NAACP chapter in Cecil County. In 1966, he received a letter from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. after inviting Dr. King to speak to the local NAACP chapter. And this is a few excerpts from that letter. First, let me say how deeply grateful I am to you for extending this invitation. When I talked to you in Philadelphia, I had hoped that it would be possible for me to speak for you at your event. I can certainly understand, he went on to say, the apathy and complacency which you are confronting in that community. May God continue to bless you in all of your endeavors. Sincerely, Martin L. King Jr. 2 years later, in 1968, Uncle Mac ran for the Maryland House of Delegates while serving as the president of the Cecil County NAACP. That same year, his home was bombed by the Ku Klux Klan. He wrote in his manuscript, at 1:50 a.m. one morning, there was a terrible explosion. It felt like my bed had lifted about 2 feet off the floor. Glass was falling everywhere. Marg was screaming. There was a heavy smell of black powder and a dense smoke. The Maryland State Police arrived within minutes. The FBI and Army explosive experts confirmed a plastic explosive had been thrown from a passing car. But my uncle did not retreat. Days later, a second attempt was intercepted. They planned to level your house to a cinder, a state police lieutenant told him, and we will be there to catch them. That night, a Klansman was caught in front of his home with 15 sticks of dynamite under his arm. The FBI put their plant in the Klan organization. They took the man out of the car, and his son George said, my uncle's son George, my cousin said, "Daddy, I know that guy. He shops at the Acme. In 1968, our federal and state officers protected those under threat. Today in 2026, too often, we see federal power turned inward. But McKinley Scott's story didn't stop with bombs or bullets. After surviving those threats, he rose through the ranks of Amtrak and the railroad industry, where he would once again make history. And I quote, "I was the first and only black engineer to date. I had 1,700 plus employees and was also responsible for 175 contractor employees. I had an annual budget of $170 million. As division engineer at Amtrak, he led operations across 15 states, bringing integrity, order, and vision to one of the most powerful and unionized industries in the country. He demanded accountability, he rooted out fraud, he opened doors that had been closed for generations." And I quote, and this was about a visit that his father made to him in Philadelphia. "Daddy sat there in complete amazement with tears running down his face. He said, 'I never thought I would see a son of mine become a division engineer.'" This is Maryland history, and this is my family's history. But for me, this story doesn't end in the 1970s or even with his retirement, because this moment, standing here today, serving in this very chamber, is his fulfillment of his dreams. He ran for the House of Delegates in 1968. Today, I stand here as a member of the Maryland General Assembly. This is not just history, it is full circle. McKinley Scott passed away in 2012, but his spirit, his courage, and his legacy live on. And today, as I honor his life and his legacy, I'm proud to acknowledge the members of his family who are here with us in the gallery, and I would like for them to stand. First, my cousins and his children, Joan Scott Cruz and Michael Scott. If you could stand. His granddaughter, Margot Cruz, and I think my sister, his niece, Normitha Goodrum. Colleagues, this is your Black History Moment. Thank you. And Madam Speaker, I didn't stand up earlier because I was going to do this. Another reminder to the members of the Black Caucus, Thursday, breakfast with the governor. Thank you.
Thank you. One second. Recognizing the chair of the Jewish Caucus.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Just a quick reminder to the members of the body. Today is Jewish Advocacy Day for the Jewish Public Relations Council from Greater DC, the Baltimore Jewish Council, and a number of Jewish federations from across the state. So you should be visited this afternoon and this evening by constituents from across Maryland, and then you are all cordially invited to a reception afterwards at the Graduate. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome. Any personal or guest announcements?
Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the delegate from Montgomery County, then I'm going to come to Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Permission to say delegate's name?
Permission granted.
Thank you. Today, Delegate Boafo and I are honored to welcome a delegation of professional staff from the Parliament of the Republic of Ghana, who, yes, I believe they're still here. Can you all rise? They are here to visit Maryland as part of a professional development program in partnership with the National Conference of State Legislatures. The 19 guests range from being clerk of the Parliament, principal, assistant clerks, different directors, security, and legal services. Ghana, which is the birthplace for both myself and Delegate Wafo's parents, is a nation with a strong democratic tradition since March 6, 1957, the Day of Independence. Colleagues, please extend a warm welcome to our guests from Ghana.
Recognizing the delegate who was very patient from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
Colleagues, what a day it is, and I just felt like I just needed to share this one more time. Tomorrow is the Love Day. Give a pint for me. If you wouldn't mind, give some blood. I would appreciate it very, very much. I wish that I could. It breaks my heart to know that I cannot give blood. But I know that this blood saves lives, and it could save somebody in your own family. I'm reminded when I was a young boy, when I had my first open heart surgery, my dad worked at the Martin Company, and there was a group of men that got together, and they started giving blood. And before it was over with, over 100 men had give blood that day, and they started a blood bank constantly from that time. So I urge you, if you could, please give blood. God bless you.
Thank you.
Madam
Recognizing the gentleman from Anne Arundel County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Colleagues, with us today are veterans from around the state of Maryland participating in a joint Veterans Committee of Maryland's Operation Annapolis. Veterans Take Action. They are in the gallery and will be visiting your offices today to advocate for legislation that directly affects our veteran community. Please give them a warm welcome and look for them in your offices today.
Thank you for your service. Recognizing the gentleman from Howard County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to introduce the doctor of the day, and he's still here. Dr. Anuradha Reddy from District 9A, and she's a committee chair of Medicaid Legislative Health Insurance, and she's practicing internal medicine in Baltimore City. Okay. Let's give her a welcome. I probably left. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other personal or guest announcements? Right, seeing none, we're going to go to quorum call. I'm sorry. Hold on a second.
I didn't think it was
We're recognizing the delegate from Howard County.
Thank you. I'm sorry for almost missing. I thought someone else would take this response, but we do have a former member with us on the floor today, and I would like to acknowledge our former member, Deborah.
Ray.
All right.
Welcome. Was the delegate from Anne Arundel County getting up from St. Mary's? Okay. Anyone else? All right. So we did everyone register their presence? The clerk would take the call. What happened? Uh-oh. Oh. What is it? All right, it did process. There being 130 members present, the House is still in session. Recognizing the majority leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that the House stands adjourned until Wednesday, February 4th at 10 o'clock a.m.
All right.